Hello, everyone. This is Sean, aka the Bearded Disciple of Christ. Welcome to the third discussion today. I hope that you've taken the time to watch the first two discussions, and I hope that you've enjoyed them. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, this discussion is titled "Must I Wait This Long?" And I'm going to share a personal story with you and relate that to another story in the scriptures. But back in 2010, I was called to serve a 2-year mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Phoenix, Arizona. I was supposed to leave in June, and I remember one day I can't remember exactly what day, but I remember prior to serving or be leaving for the missionary training center, I was playing basketball with some friends and I tore my meniscus. And I was devastated because I received the mission call and I was very excited to go. And here and now I just found out it's going to be delayed, and I was a lot of emotions went through my mind. I was frustrated, furious, I was anxious, I was very sad, I was depressed. I mean, there were a lot of emotions that went through my mind when that happened because in my mind I'm very naive at the time. I thought I'm trying to do something that's good. I'm trying to go and share the gospel of Jesus Christ with the people in Phoenix, and here it's been delayed. Why would this be delayed? Why should I not be out there preaching the gospel? And it was hard. And so my first so after I got all those frustrations out of the way, I became level-headed. I realized I need to pray and ask God why this happened. And so I prayed. I prayed and I prayed and I prayed every morning, every night, and asking, why did this happen? Why did I tear my meniscus when I'm supposed to go and do a glorious work, really? And I wasn't receiving an answer. And I prayed, I continued to pray, and I still wasn't receiving it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And a couple of months passed by, and I still hadn't had an answer. And I was starting to get the I started those depressive feelings started to come back to me, and I was thinking, well, does God really answer prayers? I mean, I've been asking, I really want to know, I sincerely want to know why, but I just had to keep on waiting. And so one day I was downstairs, and this was prior to me having a surgery to repair the meniscus, but I was downstairs, I had just finished eating dinner. My mom had cooked for us, and it was a nice steak dinner, and my dad was still at work, and my little brother was late getting home. And so I was downstairs resting my knee while my little brother was eating dinner, and I just remember hearing my mom screaming like I had never heard her scream before, and it terrified me. And so I just a natural reaction of mine, I jumped out of my seat and started running upstairs. And I didn't even think about my knee, because I was in a lot of pain with a torn meniscus, but I didn't even think about my knee, and I just ran upstairs. And when I turned the corner, I saw my mom just freaking out and telling me like, do something. And my little brother had his hand around his throat. He could not breathe. He could not cough. He was not making a sound, just holding his neck, could not breathe. And without skipping a beat, I ran over and wrapped my arms around him, and I thrust my arms into his abdomen, and a huge chunk of steak went flying across the floor. And he was just gasping for air, and I just remember like, why don't you chew your foods? Enjoy it. Don't just inhale it. And it's just because it was terrifying. And of course, like, why did you do that? And so after we're like, okay, everything's fine. We can calm down now. Let's go back to what we were doing. So I went back downstairs and started resting my knee again. I remember thinking, I was pondering that what just happened because it was very, very traumatic. At first, I was like, man, thinking, my brother just needs to chew his food. He just needs to learn to enjoy his food, chew it, so he doesn't have to worry about choking again, because that was just absolutely terrifying. But I continue to ponder about that experience, I, and I realized, well, the Lord helped me realize that was the answer to my prayer. I was the only other one besides my mom that was home when he was eating, and obviously, and I mean that no disrespect to my mother. I mean, she was in shock and didn't know what to do. I mean, I don't blame her because that's a terrifying moment if that's the first time you've ever experienced something like that. And I just remember thinking, if I wasn't there, my brother would have passed out. By the time the EMTs would have arrived, he probably would have experienced some brain damage due to loss of oxygen, or even worse, he could have died had I not been there. And it was quite interesting because when this all happened, I was supposed to be at the MTC. I shouldn't have been home. I was supposed to be at the MTC, and had I not been there, who knows what would have happened to my brother. And in that moment, the Lord helped me realize that's why he had that. He allowed that to happen to me. And I think about that experience that I had, and I mean, I only waited a couple months to receive an answer. And if you think about it, that's not long at all. I mean, there are people out there who have prayed for years and years and years for an answer to their prayer and still have not received it. Yet I admire those people that continue to pray to God for an answer years and years and years down the road and wait and have the faith that knowing that he's going to answer, and don't lose that faith. I mean, it's not easy. I don't think it's easy for anyone, but they keep that faith knowing that in the Lord's due time, in his own way, he will answer prayers and he will help us. And we just have to realize that we need to be okay with waiting a long period of time, and be patient and allow the Lord to do his work, because there are other lessons along the way that we can learn. So this story, and I do not compare myself with this individual because this individual is way above me, but the story of Job. And if you don't know the story of Job, it's kind of a heartbreaking one, but it's also one of motivation to be better and to have a more tender heart towards the Lord, and what he allows to happen to us. So if you don't know the story, I'm just going to go ahead and briefly summarize that. So we had four servants that came to Job, and he was saying that one day, his oxen and his servants had been killed, and there was a fire that had burned all of his sheep, and then he had camels that were stolen, and then a strong wind came and blew over his house and killed all of his children. And but prior to all this happening, Satan approached God and said, the only reason why Job believes in you and has faith in you is because of all the many blessings you give him. Because Job was a pretty wealthy man, pretty well off, and God said, okay, well, you can do what you will, just don't hurt him. And so Satan said, okay, and so Satan, of course, did all those things. Well, after Job's response to all this happening, he says in Job chapter 1, verse 21, he says, and said, naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So he praised the Lord. He said, blessed be the name of the Lord for what he had done. Because we have to make that realization. We have to have that realization that the Lord gives everything that we have, and he can take that away. But we know that it's for our good, and we might not know why or how, but we have to trust in him that it's for our good. But the story doesn't end there. So Satan approached God again and said, well, I still think that, if I do some other things to him, that he will lose his faith in you. I don't think he's that strong a person. So God said, okay, you can do what you want, just don't kill him. And so Satan strikes Job with all these boils, and in that day it was essentially leprosy that he was stricken with, and it was awful. I mean, can you imagine how painful that would have been? And then, not and on top of that, he had his three friends approach him and say, the only reason why this is happening to you is because you haven't been living a righteous life. But Job knew that he was, and no matter what he said to his friends, his friends just said, you did something wrong, and you did this or that, but you did something wrong. And after, even after all that reproving, Job replied in chapter 9, verses 2 through 4. He says, I know it is so of a truth, but how should man be just with God? If he will contend with him, he cannot answer him one of 1,000. He is wise in heart and mighty in strength, who hath hardened himself against him and hath prospered. So what I'm trying to say is, don't get frustrated with the Lord. If something happens to you, if something's not going your way, let's not be quick to blame God for that. Rather, let's have a different mindset and figure out what the Lord is trying to teach us. Because I truly believe that if we get on our knees and sincerely pour our hearts out to Him, He will help us understand what it is that we need to learn at this time, why certain trials are happening, and so forth, because He will answer them. There's a reason why these things happen to us. We've just got to ask the Lord why for a better understanding. And sometimes we might even have to wait until we cross beyond the veil to know what God is trying to teach us. But He will teach us, and we need to have that faith and remember that He will answer us, and it'll be a glorious moment. Like when I found that out about my little brother, and or about that experience that I had with my little brother, I realized that the Lord, even though it was really hard, it was a struggle to go through that meniscus tear and go through that rehab process, and a lot of pain and a lot of anguish, but I would do that again and again and again because of that wonderful testimony that I received through prayer and knowing that God has a purpose for everything that happens in our lives. And know that He's with you. Christ is with you. They only want the best for you, and we cannot forget that, especially when we're at our lowest of lows. I know this to be true, and I hope that you can find, if you don't have that testimony, I hope that you can find it. Exercise your faith, and then the miracle will come. But anyway, I have there's a video that I want to share too. I've posted that in the comments below, or in the description below. So take the opportunity to watch it. It talks about continuing in patience. That's the title of the video. But I hope that you've enjoyed this one, and I'll see you all next time. Thank you.